California Republican Darrell Issa is chairman of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee and the man you saw questioning the Attorney General in that exchange. Sir, thank you so much for being here back with us on the program.
Thank you, Megyn.
Let me start with this. Now House Republicans are asking for a special counsel. Do you believe that the Attorney General lied to Congress?
Well, certainly, Megyn, the statement made by the Attorney General is not supportive. He cannot tell us that he misunderstood that question in a way in which, even though he knew about Fast and Furious, he was getting weekly briefings, somehow he thought it was something different.
Why not?
Well, because we've read the memos, because it's very clear that if he looked at look, he has two choices. He can be incompetent to the point at which weekly briefings and weekly memos don't mean anything, or he at least knew something and chose to say he didn't in hopes that we would go away. The challenge that Chairman Lamar Smith of Judiciary and I have is to hold him accountable, to come before us to, in fact, explain what he knew and when he knew it, and this time get it accurate. But more importantly, the people on both sides of the border who have seen loved ones die, they deserve to know who authorized this program, who allowed it to go on, who funded it, and how we're going to prevent anything this stupid from happening again in the future.
Now, but let me jump in, because the Department of Justice gave us a statement, and they said, with respect to those weekly briefings, they say they provided general overviews and status updates. None referenced the controversial tactics that allowed guns to cross the border. And they say when you asked Eric Holder about the controversial aspects of Fast and Furious, that's what he was speaking to when he said, I learned of them a few weeks ago. The controversial aspects, not Operation Fast and Furious itself.
Well, look, if that's the case, then he deliberately misled Congress. He answered in a fashion that was not truthful because he swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. His statement, by definition, would have been like Bill Clinton defining the meaning of is.
But why couldn't he have just been confused? Why couldn't he have just been confused by the question, seeing whether you were trying to get to the controversial stuff about Fast and Furious, or, you know, and accurately understanding that's what you were interested in versus the entire operation? Very
good point. I know Eric Holder. I've watched him for a long time. He loves to pick on the nuances. He loves to come back to you and say that, you know, what about this, what about this? He's very capable of restating an answer if that was the case, of making it clear, if it was true, that he didn't know about the details or what details he knew about it. He said something that was not responsive to the question. I believe he did that deliberately. I believe that we, the Congress, have to investigate why he would say that and put him on the record. But understand, Megyn, there's something more important. These weekly memos were going to him. In March of 2009, he promised the Mexican people an increased program. Lanny Brewer and others that work for him, number 2 and 3 at Justice, clearly knew about the details of this program, and yet he wants us to believe he didn't know and that he answered truthfully. This is becoming less and less supportive. It's the reason that Chairman Lamar Smith has called for a special prosecutor. Quite frankly, I think the investigation, at least for the foreseeable future, needs to be handled in an open and transparent way. We need to have people come and speak on the record publicly, because I don't believe we want to have 6 months of somebody setting up a shop to investigate. And more importantly, how are we going to get somebody who truly can investigate the head of justice? We can't get a U.S. attorney, as we usually would, to do an investigation. They basically all work for Eric Holder.
Why would Eric Holder, the Attorney General of the United States, the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States, come before Congress, and I assume he was under oath at the time?
He was.
And perjure himself and lie under oath to the U.S. Congress about what role he had or what knowledge he had about such a controversial information. I mean, doesn't it make sense that he would know that there are memos, that there were weekly briefings, that there are people within justice who would contradict this? I mean, it would be incredibly reckless for him to take such a step. Why would he do that?
Well, the only thing I can say is, why indeed would he not correct the record when his people looked at this the day after, 2 days after, 5 days after, 10 days after? You know, it wasn't, Megyn, it wasn't just my question. Jason Chaffetz, who, like myself, is on both of these committees, followed up with another round of questioning. He had 2 chances that day, and he had every day since then to correct the record, to refine it, to state it. You understand, he sent, Eric Holder and the Justice Department sent their legislative affairs individual to tell us we never let guns walk. included in these discoveries from yesterday is their concerns that they were letting too many guns walk. So we've been misled by the legislative affairs person who may not have known the facts, but who should have known the facts when he was sent to testify before Congress. We've been misled by Eric Holder when he testified before Congress. If these people are so incompetent that they come to give sworn testimony before the Congress in our oversight role, and they don't come with the facts, then I think the president should question their competence. If, on the other hand, they knew or approved these programs, then we have to question their judgment, because anyone who has seen the effects of Fast and Furious understands reckless program that killed people on both sides of the border.
Congressman Darrell Issa, thank you so much for being here, sir.
Thank you, Megyn.